The United Nations is marking World Press Freedom Day, which showcases the role of media in highlighting accountability, justice, and human rights. Well, this year, the plight of journalists in Gaza is in the spotlight. With Israel banning foreign journalists from entering the territory, coverage of events on the ground has fallen heavily on the shoulders of local Palestinian journalists. Many of them risk their lives to bring the story to an international audience.
Sami Abu Salem risks everything to tell the story of people in Gaza. The Palestinian journalist has been displaced at least 12 times since the war began. Conditions have long been tough, but Israel cutting off all supplies in Gaza at the start of March makes it even worse.
The situation is draining. Journalists in Gaza spend most of their day searching for water and food. Only then can we turn to work and gather news, because survival is a priority. Feeding my children comes first.
Abu Salem works for the Palestinian Authority's news agency Wafa and for international media. He says every aspect of the job is a struggle.
To gather news, we need electricity, internet access, energy sources, and information sources. We must move from place to place, but travelling by car is dangerous because of ongoing shelling. And let's not forget the technical issues we face. My cell phone is becoming obsolete. Right now, I'm using my phone to write a report and it hurts my eyes. I should be working on my laptop, but it's broken and needs a new battery. There are no spare parts for cameras, laptops, or phones.
Many journalists work out of makeshift offices like this one, where Shuruk Shaheen reports for a Syrian TV network. She says nowhere is safe. Many of her colleagues have been killed.
Each time we bid farewell to a fellow journalist, we wonder who will be the next one. It could be me, a friend or a colleague, I don't know. But in these difficult circumstances, this war is against everyone and has no mercy on anyone. Not paramedics, not doctors, nurses, civil defence crews, not civilians, children or women. Why would it show mercy to journalists?
The Committee to Protect Journalists says 176 journalists have been killed so far, but others put the number higher. The Israeli Defense Forces deny targeting journalists, claiming some of those killed were de facto Hamas or Islamic Jihad operatives disguised as journalists. The constant danger makes it even more difficult to do the work properly. And they also have to navigate layers of pressure from ruling militant group Hamas and in the form of allegations of bias and complicity from abroad. And Palestinian journalists are on their own. Israel has not allowed international journalists to go in.
We are accused of bias. Fine. Then allow foreign journalists in. But they want to isolate people here and commit massacres in killing families and children without witnesses, without oversight, since they always try to discredit our narrative.
These professional challenges mix with personal traumas. Both Shaheen and Abu Salem have lost their homes. Several members of Abu Salem's family have been killed in Israeli bombings. And yet, they keep working.
Let's bring in Jodie Ginsberg. She's CEO of the Committee to Protect Journalists, and she joins us from New York. Welcome to DW, Jodie. So as we saw in that report, journalists in the Gaza Strip face particularly grim challenges, but so many other journalists around the world are also being silenced. How would you describe the situation of global journalism today?
We are in an extremely perilous situation for journalism globally. Last year was the deadliest year ever for journalists worldwide. A record number of journalists killed, more than 120, most of them Palestinians killed by Israel in the current war. But as you say, we are seeing journalists being targeted across the world, killed in places like Mexico, in India, and we are seeing record numbers of journalists in jail. So the situation for journalists, for journalism, therefore our right to know, is under severe threat.
Well, these events are also reflected in this year's Press Freedom Index, which shows the lowest number of countries ever rated good for press freedom. What worries you most right now?
What worries us in particular is that the attacks we're seeing on journalists are happening not just in what you might term traditionally authoritarian countries, places like Russia, which have long targeted independent media, or places like China, but they're increasingly happening in democratic countries. Last week, we published a report on the first 100 days of the Trump administration in the United States, and we're seeing growing numbers of threats to independent media here. Things like legal attacks on the media. We're seeing spurious lawsuits that tie journalists up for months, if not years, if not decades, in really expensive litigation that often has an immense chilling effect on journalists. If you know that perhaps you're going to be faced with the kinds of costs that may bankrupt you as an organization, you may think twice about that investigation that you're doing into a corrupt business or into a corrupt politician.
And what do you believe needs to happen so that this downward trend can be reversed, so that press freedom and press independence can be protected, so journalists can do their jobs?
Well, in particular, we need democratic countries to uphold their commitment to a free and independent press, to introduce no legislation that limits the independence of the press, and to continue to champion a free press. Over the past few years, we've seen and heard leaders of democratic countries smear journalists as enemies of the people, to cast doubt on their independence. And all of that creates an environment in which people increasingly mistrust all journalists, all independent information. And we need journalists to be able to operate freely so that they can bring us the information we need to live our everyday lives.
That was Jodie Ginsberg of the Committee to Protect Journalists. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you.